This program is rated PG and may contain mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Mexico is a country of vibrant traditions and breathtaking scenery that has inspired the modern world in many ways.
Mexico is one of the most extraordinary countries with a very rich history that goes very far back.
Mexico is a diverse country in so many ways.
Lush landscapes, incredible culture, and exciting cuisine. Mexico's contributions have truly changed the world.
Our daily lives are filled with game-changing innovations that originated in Mexico. From food we enjoy and rely on, to advances in engineering and astronomy.
It has given to the world some of the best painters, Diego Rivera, Frido Kahlo.
Cultural and scientific gifts from Mexico surround us.
Mexico's influence can be felt all over the world.
To celebrate Mexico's influence, we're going to conduct a thought experiment. Over the next hour, we're going to explore some of Mexico's greatest innovations, and then imagine a world where they are all stripped away.
We would really see a collapse of our technological civilization. Without it, the world really becomes a much, much scarier and much less safe place.
Every living creature on this planet would be affected in a really negative way.
Life as we know it would be fundamentally different without Mexico.
This is History Erased, the world without Mexico. Located in the southern half of North America, with long sweeping coastlines on the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific Ocean, Mexico is an ancient civilization steeped in culture and innovation.
Mexico is the country where the past really, really matters.
Today, as we look at Mexican contributions to the globe, we're going to follow a family as they prepare for a fiesta. To get a sense of just how important Mexican culture and innovation has been. Mexico has a long history, beginning over 10,000 years ago in Mesoamerica, through its transforming empires to the country we know today.
The roots of Mesoamerica go back a long way. The Olmecs produced some of the most distinctive features of Mesoamerican civilization. But there were other cultures that flourished, such as the Mayan or the Aztecs.
And the indigenous people in the region cultivated some of the most recognizable foods we have today, like tomatoes, avocados, chilies, the common bean, and corn.
Corn is really a companion of Mexican culture. It is a friend. It is next to you when you are born, and it's with you when you die.
In fact, the Maya creation story says that humans are part the blood of the gods and part corn.
Corn is an incredibly versatile crop. It's used to feed livestock, but also it's a huge source of calories for people around the world.
Corn can be found in many products, from snacks and drinks to soaps and paints. Corn-based ethanol is mixed into 98% of U.S. gasoline to oxygenate it, reducing air pollution. At our party, food preparations are underway, which include one of the most essential ingredients for modern cooking all around the world, the tomato. After the Spanish encountered Mexican food during the colonial period in the 16th century, they opened the world to new culinary flavors.
They found different tastes of food that literally shocked them, and they brought them back to Europe.
But not all the crops were an instant hit. Italians first used the tomato as a decoration, believing it to be poisonous.
It's part of the nightshade family. Nightshade can be deadly poisonous, and only subsequently did we discover that, in fact, even though it comes from a poisonous family, it itself is not poisonous.
The tomato went on to become a staple in Europe and throughout the world, helping to create dishes and flavors we know and love, from the margarita pizza to ketchup. Unlike the tomato, Mexico's chili was quick to take off. Spanish explorers brought the fiery fruit back to Europe, and the Portuguese trade routes quickly spread the heat worldwide.
That scale of spice all came from Mexico and has made it across the continents to influence flavors.
And when it came to turning up the heat in the bedroom, Mexicans found inspiration in another fruit.
Avocado is a symbolic fruit, and it's a fruit that has the form of a testicle. For the Aztecs, it was connected with fertility.
And together, these Mesoamerican crops helped to create the iconic Mexican dish, the taco.
There are fish tacos and meat tacos and vegetable tacos.
They are a vessel to transport tasty things to your mouth.
Generally, a taco eater would incline her head or his head a little bit to the left, just as the taco is coming to the mouth, and then the first bite that just makes you salivate.
Today, Americans enjoy more than 4.5 billion tacos a year. But tacos aren't the only Mexican dish that has won the hearts of international food lovers. Mexico also gave us nachos. Ignacio Anaya is credited with creating the dish in 1943 in the city of Piedras Negras, Coahuila. The dish soon melted hearts worldwide.
Nachos, delicious little triangles of joy, piled high with flavor and topped with cheese. What is not to love?
We also have Mexico to thank for some of our favorite drinks.
I love tequila.
Tequila has a huge cultural significance in Mexico. It originated there. It comes from a plant that grows in the country.
Tequila, from the mezcal family, can only be produced from the blue agave plant in a specific region of Mexico.
Tequila is like champagne. It's a name of origin. There's only 5 states in Mexico that can produce tequila. You taste a little bit of this Mexican heaven when you taste a very good tequila.
But tequila isn't the only Mexican export making people happy. Anyone with a sweet tooth is forever grateful to Mexico for another gift to the world.
Chocolate comes from a tree called cacao. The origin is right in the state of Tabasco and the state of Chiapas. They grow wild.
Mesoamerican civilizations, from the Olmecs through to the Aztecs, knew this plant was special and used the cocoa beans to create a frothy, bitter drink.
Chocolate was very much the beverage of the nobles. It was the beverage of the rulers, and it was a ceremonial beverage.
And it certainly was an important part of the diet of the members of the elite.
In 1519, Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés described chocolate as the divine drink, which builds up resistance and fights fatigue. He brought cacao beans back to Europe, where they would eventually become popular with the Spanish elite.
Nowadays, the finest chocolatiers are over in France and Switzerland, but it all began in Mexico.
Mexico is also home to another flavor sensation, vanilla.
Vanilla is the second most expensive spice in the world, just after saffron.
If chocolate and vanilla disappeared, you walk into your nearest bakery, at least half the items are going to be gone.
Mexican crops are essential ingredients globally.
The Mexican contribution really part of the larger community of cuisines. The Indian tradition, the Italian tradition, the French tradition.
And Mexican dishes are loved worldwide.
Mexican cuisine has been declared a World Heritage by UNESCO.
But today, as we begin our thought experiment and start to strip away some of Mexico's greatest culinary innovations. The world becomes very different without these delicious and important gifts. The fun of the birthday party is interrupted.
To not have chocolate cake, it would be a real shock for everybody.
Foods like ice cream, candy, chips, and dips are no longer available.
Without Mexico's contributions, your grocery stores would be unrecognizable. Cuisines around the world would be completely different.
Can you imagine Italian food without tomato? Impossible. The whole ketchup industry would not exist.
Think of a world without chocolate, without tequila.
Without corn, the global food supply quickly dwindles.
4.5 billion people in the world rely on corn as a staple of their diet.
In the long term, it is devastating. We quite literally might see as much as a third to a half of the human race simply starve to death.
As livestock feed runs out, the food chain is critically impacted.
You take that away, and we're going to see a huge famine worldwide.
The loss of these important foods has left people and animals hungry and stressed the global economy. What will happen next to our world when we erase key cultural and entertainment innovations from Mexico? Mexico's greatest innovations in agriculture have been erased. At our birthday party, some of our most cherished food has disappeared. Millions around the world are left without the staples of their diet or food for their livestock. Now, as our thought experiment continues, we're going to see what happens when we strip away Mexico's amazing contributions to culture and entertainment. One innovation that Mexico helped turn on was color television.
Guillermo González Camarena wondered how the TV could be much more reflective of the world that he saw around him.
In the 1940s, Camarena developed and patented an early color TV system that could generate, transmit, and reproduce primary color motion images. It wasn't the only attempt to create color TV, but the simplicity and elegance of Camarena's system caught the eye of NASA in the 1970s.
When NASA was sending its Voyager probes to the outer solar system, and everybody on Earth was waiting for color pictures to come back, we used this Mexican-invented system.
When we think about Voyager, and the first images that we think of Jupiter with its striking maroons and reds, that's due to Camarena's discovery.
This innovation helped bring color images into our homes. But Mexico has changed our perspective in other moving ways.
The golden age of Mexican cinema, roughly from the end of the 30s until the end of the 50s, produced some of the best movies that are now classics.
Mexican actors became well-known faces in the glory days of Hollywood, as well as in recent years. And Mexican directors are some of the most respected filmmakers in the world today. Between 2013 and 2018, Mexicans won the Best Director Oscar 5 times.
Alfonso Cuarón, Guillermo del Toro, Iñárritu, they have been carrying on the tradition of the golden age of Mexican cinema in just extraordinary ways.
From the screen to the canvas, Mexico has also produced other iconic figures in the art world, such as Frido Kahlo.
For Mexicans, Frida Kahlo represents so much more than art. She represents the culture and also to be a feminine Mexican woman.
In 1939, Kahlo's self-portrait, The Frame, was purchased by the Louvre.
This woman was defining in an era where it was hard for women to speak up.
She's become much more of a symbol of individuals triumphing despite incredible obstacles.
Whether or not you're Mexican, you can relate in some way to Frida.
It was after her death that Kahlo really became an icon, ingraining Frida-mania in global popular culture. Kahlo's husband was renowned Mexican muralist Diego Rivera.
He was the one who dominated the narrative of what the genre of muralism was.
In the 1920s, Diego Rivera was one of the first artists to use murals to try and unify the people through social and political messages.
Muralists like Diego Rivera, who became world famous and started a tradition of art that's all around the world now, got that idea from indigenous Mexican populations.
It was really important post-Mexican Revolution as a way to educate the public that at that time was mostly illiterate through art. And now we have murals everywhere.
It would be impossible to imagine 21st century pictorial art without Diego Rivera.
Today, the method of spreading important political and social messages through big art pieces can be felt worldwide. And ancient indigenous murals still have a lot to teach us about early Mesoamericans, like their love of music.
Music has been a part of Mexican culture since the time of the Mayas.
There's a beautiful mural in Bonampak with an entire band using conch shells and ceramic flutes and drums.
But one of the best known styles of Mexican music dates back to the 18th century, mariachi.
Mariachi music is my favorite music.
They are dressed up as these rancheros with their big sombreros.
It is such a joyful experience. It actually originated in Jalisco, where you can still go and experience mariachi music live.
In 2011, mariachi received international recognition when UNESCO added it to their intangible cultural heritage list. Mexican influence in music extends beyond mariachi. Rock pioneer Richie Valens put Mexican music on the map in 1958 with his song La Bamba, which was adapted from a Mexican folk song. He went on to inspire other Mexican-American artists like Carlos Santana and Selena.
We're hearing songs on the radio that are bilingual, that have English and Spanish elements. Their talents are no longer reserved for just Spanish-speaking countries.
While music can celebrate life, it can also be used to celebrate death. Another Mexican tradition that is gaining global attention, Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead.
The Day of the Dead is this belief that you never really die as long as someone remembers you.
The celebration combines Aztec rituals and Spanish tradition. Private altars or grave sites of loved ones are covered with offerings to invite their spirits back for a visit.
You embrace them, you listen to them, you eat with them, you dance with them, you are reunited with them.
This Mexican view on death and tradition is inspiring many around the world.
There are people who don't come from a Mexican background but are so moved by the idea of not letting our loved ones be forgotten, which is at the root of El Día de los Muertos.
The traditions don't end there.
Lucha Libre is Mexican wrestling. It started in Mexico decades ago. It is an experience.
The piñata is a staple of Mexican life.
You should be blindfolded, and then you're given a bat or some sort of stick to just sort of whack at the piñata.
People would ceremoniously beat the piñata until it released its candy interior.
When you think about music and film and innovations in the way in which we consume media, preserve stories and art, Mexico has been at the forefront of a lot of these innovations.
But as we continue our thought experiment and strip away Mexican cultural innovations, our society becomes much poorer and our world grows desperate. Empty piñatas spill disappointment.
I would not want to be in a world without Mexico's contribution to popular culture, to religion, to color is essential and irreplaceable.
Look at the imprint of Mexico in the world and in our daily life, in things that we consume as being part of our culture actually originated in Mexico.
Without Mexican music, art, and entertainment, global culture is changed at its core.
It really would be like turning the world back into black and white, shades of gray. It's horrible to contemplate. It is living, but it's not being alive without what Mexico gave us.
Around the world, communities lose important social and political messages.
If murals were to disappear, we would lose so much beauty and so much history.
As the world and our birthday party struggle with the loss of these cultural contributions, things are about to get worse as we remove key resources from Mexico. Mexico has had a strong influence on the world, from its cultural contributions to its cuisine. For the birthday party, these losses are devastating. As we continue our thought experiment, we're going to look at the impact of some crucial resources Mexico has brought to the world. Mesoamerica is filled with natural riches. One that had an illustrious influence around the world was Mexico's vast deposits of silver.
It really wasn't until sort of outside influence that it became much more than a status symbol.
Spain was hungry for silver. They had depleted a lot of their mines. When they got to Mexico, they realized there were huge, untapped resources of silver.
One of the most important uses for silver was in the production of currency.
The peso was the most important currency in the 16th and 17th century and were the ones that were most accepted in global trade.
From the late 16th century until the 1870s, silver was Mexico's largest international trade, amounting to more than 70% of total exports.
Silver that came out of Mexico changed Europe and put Spain in the driver's seat.
Today, Mexico is the world's biggest producer of silver.
Silver isn't just a precious metal. It is used throughout our modern technological civilization.
It's in electronics, it's in mirrors.
Silver vases lend elegance to our flowers, and rings band us together.
You think about batteries and solar panels, the medical industry. Silver is actually used in a myriad of ways that you probably don't even realize.
Another vital material to our modern lives had its beginning in Mexico: rubber.
Right where the Olmec people were, which actually means the rubber people, that's where there were huge resources of rubber trees.
To create rubber, sap, known as latex, was extracted from the rubber tree, then hardened using another jungle plant.
Combining it with morning glory, which is a plant which naturally contains sulfur, they were able to vulcanize the rubber, which made it more stretchy and stronger.
And this important Mexican resource gave us the world's first rubber ball game.
The ball game for Mexico was actually played by every culture we know of. Probably started by the mother culture, the Olmec, but everyone loved the ball game.
When Cortés sent ball game players to Europe, and when they saw the bouncing of the ball, they were astonished.
Think about how much joy and diversion the world gets from all the sports that we do that involve rubber balls. Before contact with Mexico, the rest of the world knew nothing about that.
The ways in which we can use sports to teach children and to teach people what it means to be on a team. What would happen if this didn't exist anymore?
We know that the groups around central Mexico would oftentimes just have their city's team compete against another city's team to resolve their conflicts instead of going to battle. So in that regard, ball game team sports have avoided a lot of wars.
But what rubber has given the world goes well beyond sports.
It really is the glue that binds together our whole civilization.
From a surgeon wearing latex gloves, to the boots we wear, to the hose in your garden.
In the tires that we use for a car, it is used for medicine, it is used for jewelry.
It led to the development of the balloon. So next time you inflate one at a birthday party, think back to Mexico.
The bountiful land of Mesoamerica also provided another natural resource, sisal, also known as henequen.
Henequen was used for a variety of objects, but primarily rope.
From the 1880s until the 1950s, sisal was the main crop of the Yucatan.
And Yucatan became ridiculously wealthy by outfitting the world's boats with rope.
And these boats sailed back to Europe with another Mexican product that added color to our lives, cochineal.
Cochineal is an insect, but what's extraordinary about cochineal is that once crushed produces a red that is so vibrant that it was incredibly difficult to reproduce.
When the Spanish discovered that Mexico was producing all these shades of red, the cochineal became one of their most valuable trade items.
For a while, Spain was the producer of all the royal clothes, and it was all because of this little bug that grew on a cactus in Oaxaca.
The red of the cochineal transforms not just textiles, but the art world. Van Gogh, as did Gauguin and others, they used cochineal paint until synthetic paints took over.
Recently, the push to use natural products has seen a resurgence of cochineal in everyday items such as food and cosmetics, making these bugs big business. But in a world where these Mexican innovations are erased, our lives would look very different. As silver production grinds to a halt, economies are stressed as the world loses silver commodities. Silver-infused electronics, from phones to computers, stop working. Precious heirlooms and wedding bands disappear. As rubber fails, the bladder keeping our basket, tennis, and soccer balls bouncing deflates.
That would literally ruin the childhood of people around the planet, to take their ball away.
And stadiums erupt.
We symbolize the way we conduct ourselves in battle through sports. Without them, we probably would have a lot more war on the planet.
Tires break down on vehicles worldwide.
Forget global transport. From planes to cars to lorries, they all rely on rubber to safely get from point A to point B. So there's going to be crashes around the world, food shortages from supplies not getting there.
Cities would come to a standstill.
Without it, the world really becomes a much scarier and much less safe place.
What will happen next as Mexico's critical contributions to the world of engineering are stripped away? We're conducting a thought experiment to look at groundbreaking innovations from Mexico by imagining a world where those achievements disappear from our lives. Without the Mexican breakthroughs in culture and resources, the loss is felt at our birthday party and around the world. Next, we're going to look at Mexico's groundbreaking advances in engineering.
Mexico's contribution to engineering shouldn't be underestimated.
Towering engineering feats from the Mesoamerica era still stand today. Like the temple at Cholula, Puebla, considered the largest known pyramid in the world. These ancient pyramids were the skyscrapers of their day. Another Aztec engineering innovation, inspired by a vision, gave Mexico its capital city.
Their chief priest said that he had a vision that when they saw an eagle on a cactus with a snake in its mouth, that's where they should build their capital. And he happened to see that exact thing on a tiny little island out in the middle of the lake. So the Aztecs figured out how to make land there.
The Aztecs came up with the invention of the chinampas, or floating gardens, to build what we now know as Mexico City. And the vision that brought them to their capital is still displayed on the flag today.
They used all of their innovations to create their capital, and they created a city where there was none.
From the 17th century, Lake Texcoco began to be drained to control flooding. Today, the entire lake basin is taken up by Mexico City.
One of the reasons why Mexico City is so vulnerable to earthquakes today is because in the infrastructure of the city were those lakes, and we still have mud that when there is shaking, it moves like gelatin.
Mexico City has been sinking gradually, so they needed a way to stabilize some of the largest buildings there.
And in 1951, Mexican engineer Manuel González Flores designed a system to help stop the sinking or unleveling of buildings in Mexico City called control piles.
The control pile was a jacking system for supporting buildings in areas where the ground is prone to shift. You simply adjust whichever ones of the selection of columns you have that are necessary to level out the building again.
After successes in Mexico City, Flores added to his innovation by adding rolling plates to allow buildings to absorb horizontal movements, making them more earthquake resistant. Today, technology like this is implemented across the globe in areas prone to significant earth movement.
Mexico's contribution to engineering really is the result of necessity.
Mexico was the birthplace of another prolific inventor.
When we think of the great inventors of history, we sometimes forget that there's also a wonderful Mexican counterpart named Victor Ochoa.
His inventions include an airplane with foldable wings, a reversible rotary motor, and a magnetic rail brake for street trolley and train systems. In 1907, Ochoa sold the patent for his magnetic brake system to the American Brake Company in Seattle.
Magnetic rail braking is essential when it comes to safety applications because it still works even if your power cuts.
Victor Ochoa's invention is the precursor of the high-speed rail systems that we've come to know and love today.
And these braking systems are found beyond rail lines. They're in gym equipment, power tools, and automated factory systems.
So on a roller coaster, when you stop at the end, that's down to a magnetic rail brake.
Another buoyant invention made Mexican priest and scientist Jose Antonio de Alzate flush with success. In 1790, he invented the ball-cock flotation valve to regulate water supply and prevent overflow in tanks and locomotive engines.
It's a really simple idea, but prevents water wastage. It's a floating sphere that rises on an arm with the water level, and when it gets to a certain point, that lever turns the water supply off.
But the most important implication of the ball cock was the toilet.
Every house has a toilet. We would not consider our daily routine without the fact that there is a toilet there.
But as we begin to strip away these innovations in engineering, toilets begin to overflow. Buildings in vulnerable areas become unstable and more susceptible to earthquake damage.
What's at risk is human life.
If control pile engineering didn't exist, the city would turn into a ticking time bomb.
Without magnetic braking systems, trains around the world can't come to a stop.
We're talking runaway trains. We're talking literal bullet trains in that they're instruments of death.
It would be collisions on a massive scale, from everything to roller coasters to trains.
As we continue our day and erase more Mexican innovation from our world, the family and friends struggle as the entire world we know starts to crumble.
We need help.
We're looking at groundbreaking achievements for Mexico by imagining a world where they stop working and are erased from our lives. Next, our family will be faced with losing what they need most in a crisis: Mexican innovations in science and medicine. Of all the world's ancient civilizations, the Mayans were one of the most advanced. They excelled in the areas of mathematics and astronomy.
And they used that math system to do all sorts of complicated math, especially related to timekeeping.
This led to the creation of incredible calendars, so accurate they are marveled at to this day. But long before any of this happened, Mexico was the epicenter of a massive global event.
There was a very famous asteroid that hit the Yucatan Peninsula and that is credited with the extinction of the dinosaurs.
The placement was in just the right spot to starve a lot of species of oxygen. If it had hit somewhere else, we could be living in a world with reptiles larger than us.
But asteroids aren't the only danger lurking beyond our atmosphere. As our birthday party continues outdoors, an important discovery from Mexico helped shed light on the consequences of too much sun. Mexican chemist Mario Molina had a crucial role in discovering the hole in the ozone layer.
Mario Molina spent his best years studying the ozone depletion.
Molina was studying the atmospheric impact of CFCs, the chemical compounds commonly used in aerosol sprays, packing material, and refrigerants. He found they were having a dramatic effect on the ozone layer.
At the very beginning, people did not believe Molina. They thought that he was just this crazy scientist until somebody saw the hole in the ozone. And as a result, he won the Nobel Prize.
He was really responsible for that complete transformation and preservation of our ozone layer, which is vital to life on Earth.
Without the help of science that was originated in Mexico, we wouldn't even know this was happening to us.
Mexican scientists have also given us important medical innovations. Luis Ernesto Miramontes brought the traditional medicinal knowledge of a Mexican wild yam to the modern world.
Luis Ernesto Miramontes was working with Mexican yams in Mexico, and these Mexican yams yielded more than 300 medication patents. One of them was oral contraceptives, the other one was cortisone. It really was a revolution, like penicillin was. To be able to synthesize steroids outside of the human body was huge.
Today, oral contraceptives are a vital part of our modern society, while cortisone is relied on to treat conditions such as arthritis and lupus. Another medical innovation from Mexico has saved thousands of lives.
Alejandro Alagón discovered antivenom for scorpion bite.
I, as a person who explores deep jungles as a living, absolutely value antivenom.
In Arizona alone, there are 8,000 scorpion stings a year. We are now able to treat them thanks to this Mexican innovation. But as the scientific and medical innovations from Mexico disappear, our birthday boy is about to discover how vital antivenom is.
Without the advent of antivenom, we would probably die from it.
Are you okay? Help!
¿Qué pasó?
Help!
Oh, sorry. What happened?
What happened?
Without the birth control pill, we would find probably an enormous population explosion.
Without essential information about the hole in our ozone layer, plants, animals, and people would all feel the effects of increased solar radiation.
It is very likely that we would have more cases of skin cancer. It is really scary to imagine a world where we did not have that information, because every living and breathing creature on this planet would be affected, and in a really negative way.
Just a few degrees is the difference between an ice age and a livable age. So if we lose our ozone layer, we destroy the Earth.
As we reach the end of our thought experiment, the world is left suffering without Mexico's greatest gifts to cuisine, culture, science, and engineering.
I would not want to live in that world.
Today, in our thought experiment, the world has been rocked without some of the great contributions from Mexico.
Mexico is so integral to the way we have shaped our understanding of modern times. What would the world be like with all these Mexican contributions gone?
Millions of people would be affected.
Thankfully, Mexico and its innovations aren't going anywhere. And for our family at the birthday party, they can get back to the celebration.
Mexico's had such a varied and rich contribution to the world today. A little bit of spiciness with exciting cuisine, but also stability with its engineering contributions. We'd be a lot further back if it wasn't for Mexico.
The wonderful innovations Mexico has given the world live on and will define the future.
Mexico's innovations will continue to influence the world.
There are many people that have contributed to our well-being in medicine.
Like Dr. Tessie Lopez-Guern, a physical chemist, professor, and researcher who is a pioneer in catalytic nanomedicine. She has designed therapies to attack brain tumors without surgery or chemotherapy. Dr. Lopez-Guern and her team also created a nanoparticle gel that can help with wounds associated with diabetes and other diseases.
Mexico is also known for being an innovation hub.
The city of Guadalajara has become home to companies like IBM, Oracle, and Intel.
Expect Mexico to continue its leadership in sustainability, in climate change, in the adaptability of technology to the challenges of the future.
Tequila brand Herradura will be using their blue agave for more than just the national drink when they turn the discarded pulp from the plant into a biofuel. The innovative process recently debuted internationally, with blue agave biorefinery facilities opening up as far away as Australia.
If things go really bad, I'm headed to Mexico because those people are innovative and they're smart and they have lots of resources and they know how to make the most of what they have.
There is a liveliness and excitement to Mexican culture. We really owe an enormous debt of gratitude to Mexico for making us want to say, viva, live. It's alive, and that's gorgeous.
Mexico's impact has, without a doubt, been felt all around the world, and it will continue to be.